Hello, Saints. We're still in chapter 4 of Galatians, and we're going to pick up on that portion we left off of from the last video. It's about when we were slaves. He says in verse 8, however, at that time, what time is that? At that time when you did not know God, you were slaves to those which by nature are no gods. See, before we had God in our life, we were following things within this life. And we were slaves to that. We were slaves. He says, but now, verse 9. So there's a contrast. But now, you have come to know God. So things are different. In fact, he emphasizes, not that we have come to know God, he says, but rather that you are known, or you are to be known by God. How is it that you, he says, now turn your back again to the weak and worthless elemental things, to which you desire to be enslaved all over again? So, if we're heirs and we have Christ in us, if we're in the sonship position, heirs to the kingdom, we shouldn't be focusing on the earth and its system, its elemental systems. He says, this is the problem. They have turned their back on this and have given themselves over to the worthless elemental things of the earth. And he said, what, do you want to be enslaved all over again? Evidently think this was the way through. Verse 10, he says, you observe days and months and seasons and years. I fear for you that perhaps I've labored over you in vain. Has my work been useless? And when he talks about what they're doing, some people will take and grab hold of that first phrase, you observe days, and talk about Sabbath and how Sabbath should be done away with, but you observing days, that you fall into this pattern. No, that's not what he's talking about. If he's talking about earthly elemental things, he's talking about what the pagans have done. This you observe days is in the context of everything else, and months and seasons and years. He's talking about the yearly cycle that's observed by the pagans, that's observed by the community these people were living in. But now they're Christians, and they're not part of that system, because we have a different system. And so we're not to give ourselves over to these worldly things, but to stand out for who we were. We are not slaves anymore, but we are bound to Christ. We shouldn't be looking backwards into the world for how we should live and what we should practice. Next time, we're going to talk about how we should compare ourselves. Blessing.